Me, name is John. 35 years old, senior accountant at a mid-sized accounting firm. Been here 6 years. Worked my way up from junior associate. Company has about 90 employees, handles tax, audit, and advisory services. Mix of men and women, pretty balanced across all departments. Busy seasons are brutal, but the team is tight, and we deliver. Everything changes when the firm hires a new director of human resources. Her name is Monica, 37, comes from some progressive tech company in Austin. First week, she sends out a massive email about transforming firm culture, full of phrases like centering marginalized voices and disrupting traditional hierarchies. I read it and think, okay, another HR person with big ideas. Accounting firms are pretty traditional, this will fizzle out. I was very wrong. 3 weeks in, Monica announces a mandatory all-hands meeting. Subject line says, Reimagining Professional Communication. I walk into the main conference room, and there's a huge banner. Says, Building an Equitable Voice Culture. Monica is standing at the front with the presentation ready. She starts talking about how studies show men's ideas get more attention, how women's contributions are often dismissed or credited to men later, how the firm needs to address this systemic imbalance. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, some of that is real. Happy to be more conscious about giving credit and listening. Then she gets to the new policy section. Slide title says Acknowledgement Protocol for Male Employees. My stomach drops. Rule 1. Before making any suggestion or offering any idea, male employees must begin with the phrase, I acknowledge my privilege in this space. Rule 2. After the acknowledgement, men must pause for 5 seconds to allow others the opportunity to speak first. Rule 3. If a woman has spoken on the topic in the last 10 minutes, men must reference her contribution before adding their own. Rule 4. Men cannot use definitive language like we should or we need to. Must use softened language like perhaps we could consider or one possible option might be. Rule 5. All violations will be logged and affect performance reviews. I look around and every guy in the room has the same frozen expression. My buddy Greg whispers this cannot be real. A guy from the audit team raises his hand, asks if this applies to client meetings and external calls. Monica says yes. The protocol applies to all professional communications. Another guy asks what happens if we forget to say the acknowledgement phrase. Monica says first offense is a verbal warning, second is written, third affects your review. Meeting ends, and we all walk out in stunned silence. Greg grabs me and 3 other guys, let's get coffee. We go to the cafe downstairs and just sit there. Finally, Greg says, I feel like I'm being pranked. Kevin from tax shakes his head. This is actual discrimination, like textbook definition. I'm trying to be measured about it. Maybe we should give it a chance, see how it works. But even as I say it, I know it's going to be a disaster. Brian from advisory speaks up. You know what? Let's do exactly what she wants. Follow every rule perfectly, to the letter. If we push back, we're the bad guys, the resistant men. But if we comply completely, and it fails, the policy fails on its own merits. Everyone agrees. Perfect compliance starting Monday. Weekend passes, and I'm dreading going back to work. I work with a team of 6, 3 women and 3 men. We have daily check-ins, client calls, partner meetings. How do I function with all these verbal hoops to jump through? Monday morning, first team meeting of the day. Rachel gives an update on a corporate tax return she's finishing. I need to respond with a question about the depreciation schedule, but now I have to do the protocol. I take a breath and say, I acknowledge my privilege in this space. 5-second pause while everyone stares at me. Rachel, building on your excellent point about the return, perhaps we could consider reviewing the depreciation calculations again. I stop talking because I'm not sure if I did it right. Rachel looks confused. Why did you say that first part? It's the new communication protocol for men. She pulls up the policy on her phone and reads it. Her eyes go wide. You have to say this before every suggestion. Every single one, yes. Meeting continues, and every time a guy speaks, I acknowledge my privilege in this space. 5-second pause. Soften language only. A 20-minute meeting takes 50 minutes. And we barely covered half the client files we needed to discuss. That afternoon, we have a client call. Small business owner needs help with quarterly tax planning. Call is me, Greg, and Amanda from our team. Client asks what we recommend for reducing their tax liability. I have the answer ready, but I have to do the protocol. I acknowledge my privilege in this space. 5 seconds of silence on the call. Client says, hello, you still there? No, I'm here. Perhaps we could consider maximizing your retirement contributions. Client sounds confused. Why are you talking like that? Greg jumps in to help. I acknowledge my privilege in this space. 5 seconds of silence. Client says, okay, what is going on with this call? Amanda, who doesn't have to do the protocol, takes over. She handles the rest, but she's newer and doesn't know this client's history. Client ends the call sounding frustrated and confused. After we hang up, Amanda looks at us. That was painful to watch. We know, but we have to follow the policy. She shakes her head. This is going to kill our client relationships. Week 1 continues, and it's a disaster. Every meeting takes twice as long. Guys are barely speaking because the protocol is so cumbersome. When we do speak, we sound like robots reading from a script. Perhaps we could consider is becoming a running joke. But nobody's laughing. I start noticing something else happening. The women on the team are getting frustrated too. They're being asked to carry more of the conversation because the men are slowed down by the protocol. Rachel pulls me aside on Thursday. John, I need you to actually participate in these client meetings. I am participating. I'm following the protocol. You said 3 things in a 2-hour tax planning session. Because every time I speak, I have to do the acknowledgement and the pause. And I can only use soft language, so I can't actually recommend anything definitively. She looks exhausted. This is making my job harder, not easier. I tell her I know, but I can't risk violations on my record. Week 2, and things are getting worse. We miss a filing deadline because decisions aren't being made fast enough. Client emails are going unanswered because guys are afraid to write definitive responses. Does the protocol apply to email too? Someone asks. Monica confirms yes. All professional communication. Now our emails read like this. I acknowledge my privilege in writing this message. Perhaps we could consider addressing the tax issue you raised. One possible option might be to look at the deduction. Clients start complaining that our communication is weird and unclear. One client straight up asks if we hired a bunch of new people because the team sounds completely different than before. Greg gets written up for forgetting the acknowledgement phrase. He was on a call and the client asked a direct question about their audit. He just answered it naturally without thinking. Monica was monitoring the call and logged it as a violation. First written warning in his file. Greg is furious. I was helping a client understand their financials. Doesn't matter. Protocol applies to all professional communication. He starts documenting every interaction to protect himself. Other guys start doing the same thing. Cover your ass becomes the unofficial motto. Week 2, we also lose our first client. Long-term client of 8 years sends a termination letter. Says our team seems unable to provide clear, direct guidance anymore. That's $60K in annual billing gone. I document everything and send it to my personal email. Dates, incidents, client feedback, revenue impact. If this blows up, I want receipts. Week 3, Monica calls a check-in meeting. Says she's noticed some resistance to the new protocol. Wants to remind everyone of the importance of equitable communication. I raise my hand and wait to be acknowledged. I acknowledge my privilege in this space. 5-second pause. Perhaps we could consider discussing the impact on client relationships. Monica frowns. What do you mean? I pull out my documentation. We've lost 1 client citing communication issues. 3 others have complained formally. We missed a filing deadline because decision-making is slower. Monica cuts me off. This is about making space for marginalized voices. Some discomfort during the transition is expected. I acknowledge my privilege in this space. 5-second pause. Perhaps we could consider that both things can matter simultaneously. I stop talking because I've made my point. Monica dismisses the meeting looking angry. That week, 2 more clients reduce their engagements. Not full terminations, but they're scaling back services. Combined revenue impact is now over $150K. Managing partner starts asking questions about the client churn. Monica blames it on economic conditions. But the managing partner pulls the client feedback and sees the pattern. Every complaint mentions communication issues. Unclear guidance, weird phrasing, inability to get direct answers. Managing partner brings this to the other partners. Partners call a leadership meeting, and I get asked to attend. They're looking defensive. Senior partner asks me directly what's happening with the accounting teams. I acknowledge my privilege in this space. 5-second pause. Senior partner stares at me. What did you just say? That's the required protocol before male employees can make suggestions. I pull up the policy document and show him. He reads it, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. Monica, what is this? It's our equity communication initiative. It requires men to apologize before speaking. Not apologize. Acknowledge their privilege. Senior partner looks at the client feedback again. Then looks at the revenue numbers. Then looks at Monica. How long has this been in effect? 5 weeks. And in 5 weeks we've lost over $150K in billing. Client satisfaction scores have dropped significantly. We missed a filing deadline, which could have had legal consequences. All because you made men say a phrase before they can contribute. Monica tries to defend it. The research shows that men dominate conversations. Senior partner cuts her off. The research doesn't show that handicapping half your workforce improves anything. He turns to me, John, if we rescind this policy today, how long to get things back on track? I acknowledge my privilege in this space. He holds up his hand. Stop. The policy is rescinded as of this moment. I take a breath, probably 4 to 6 weeks to rebuild client confidence. We'll need to do outreach, maybe offer some complimentary advisory hours. But the team is solid. We can recover. Senior partner nods and looks at Monica. We'll be discussing your role here this afternoon. Meeting adjourns and I walk out feeling like I can breathe again. That afternoon, managing partner sends firm-wide email. The communication protocol implemented 5 weeks ago is discontinued. All employees should communicate professionally and directly. Performance reviews will not reflect any logged protocol violations. We expect mutual respect from everyone regardless of gender. Next morning team meeting is like night and day. I give guidance directly, make clear recommendations. Meeting takes 20 minutes like it used to. Rachel actually smiles. Welcome back, John. Greg jokes that he might forget how to say acknowledge my privilege. We all laugh, but there's relief underneath it. Over the next week things normalize. We reach out to the clients we lost, manage to save one of them. The other one is gone, but we stop the bleeding. Filing schedules get back on track. Client satisfaction slowly climbs back up. Monica is put on administrative leave pending review. 2 weeks later she's gone, pursuing other opportunities. Classic HR speak for forced resignation. New HR director starts a month later. His name is Robert, comes from a traditional financial services firm. First thing he does is review all existing policies. Pulls me aside and asks about the communication protocol. I tell him the whole story. He shakes his head. I've seen this before. People confuse performative gestures with actual inclusion. Making men apologize doesn't help women succeed. It just makes everyone's job harder. I ask what his approach will be. He says simple, clear professional standards that apply to everyone. Don't interrupt excessively. Listen when others speak. Give credit appropriately. Address problems individually when they arise. Don't create blanket policies based on gender. I tell him that sounds reasonable. He laughs. Reasonable is a low bar, but somehow rare these days. 6 months later, the firm has fully recovered. Billing is back up. Client relationships are solid. Team morale is higher than it's been in years. I'm in a partner meeting, and the senior partner mentions the protocol disaster. Says it taught him to vet HR policies more carefully, especially ones that treat employees differently based on demographics. I add that the women on my team were against the policy too. They didn't want men to apologize before speaking. They wanted competent colleagues who communicated effectively. The protocol made everyone's job harder, not just men's. Senior partner agrees and says inclusion should make the workplace better for everyone, not worse for some people to theoretically benefit others. Year later, I'm mentoring a new associate who just joined. She asks about the firm culture and communication norms. I tell her to be direct, be respectful, be collaborative. She looks relieved and says her last company had bizarre communication rules. I ask what kind of rules. She says men had to use specific phrases before speaking in meetings. I laugh and tell her we tried that once. She looks surprised. Really, what happened? I tell her it lasted 5 weeks and cost us $150K in billing, plus an HR director who thought discrimination was inclusion. She shakes her head. Why do people think forcing language changes behavior? I tell her because they focus on symbols instead of substance. Real inclusion is about respect, opportunity, and fair treatment, not verbal rituals that slow everyone down. She asks how the team handles disagreements now. I say we talk like professionals, disagree respectfully, and focus on solutions. If someone's being difficult, we address it directly with that person. No blanket policies, no gender-specific rules. Just clear expectations that apply to everyone equally. She says that's refreshing. I tell her it's also effective. Anyway, that's the story of how our accounting firm made men apologize before every suggestion and watched it destroy client relationships, tank billing, and implode spectacularly. All because someone confused performative equity with actual fairness. The policy didn't lift women up. It dragged everyone down. And when men complied perfectly with every ridiculous rule,